So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice. It's a lot. It's like it's an interesting thing. It's very hard to describe what it means to be Somali and what it means to be American. But it's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice.
Yes. Being Somali is not just bananas and rice, but all that Somali woman had to say was something about bananas and rice. I think she'll be in Congress soon enough, don't you think? I think so. Bill Melugin is a perfectly good news reporter at the Fox News Channel. He's got a Twitter account, and he tweeted, "There is extreme frustration with DHS officials going on TV and putting out statements claiming that Alex Pretty was intending to conduct a, quote, massacre, end quote, of federal agents, or wanted to carry out, quote, maximum damage, end quote, even after numerous videos appeared to show those claims were inaccurate." Now, I've got to say, in all respect to Bill Melugin, you bring a concealed carry 9mm pistol with a high-capacity magazine, plus a backup high-capacity magazine, according to multiple reports that I saw. Bunch of ammo, and you go down to the protest. And according to one report I read, and it was only one report, saying that he didn't normally carry concealed. He had a concealed carry permit, but he didn't normally carry concealed. But over the weekend, he decided, I'm going to start packing heat, and I'm going to grab an extra high-capacity magazine. I'm going to go down and get in the faces of federal law enforcement, find myself in a scrum with them and a fist fight with them, and then if things don't go well, hey, what's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst that could happen happened, and Alex Pretty was shot and killed by federal law enforcement. His firearm was there. Now, if you listen to Manderson Pooper on CNN yesterday, he said that Alex Pretty just had a camera in his phone, and he was just making, home videos for YouTube or something. But that's not true. He was out there to get in the face of federal law enforcement, and it didn't. I assume it didn't go as planned. Maybe this was his plan. I don't know. I can't say. I don't know. But you notice that you haven't heard anything about him. When they had their last girl who crashed her car into a federal law enforcement agent, and she got shot in the face and killed. That was terrible, too. But they immediately said, she dropped off her 6-year-old child at school, and her other 2 kids are in the custody of the father because the court decided she wasn't up for raising the other 2 kids. But never mind that. We found out all that in no time at all. Alex Pretty, no word of a wife or a husband. Actually, I did hear that his dog died recently. He had a dog, but his dog died recently. Might have been forlorn or distraught by that. The Department of Homeland Security put out a statement as well. DHS on concerns that their rhetoric is damaging credibility. That's their rhetoric at ICE, because they said, they're saying, what is he there to massacre people? He didn't normally carry concealed, but he decided to go down and confront federal law enforcement with 2 magazines and a semi-automatic 6-hour 9mm pistol, but never mind that. The Department of Homeland Security yesterday put out a statement. They said, "We have seen a highly coordinated campaign of violence against our law enforcement. This individual committed a federal crime while armed as he obstructed an active law enforcement operation." And that's okay with Democrats. It continues, "As with any situation that is evolving, like Barack Obama, he's evolving too, we work to give swift, accurate information to the American people as more information becomes available." And by the way, I don't know if you've seen the protesters there, but they've got big professionally made signs, shop-made signs, matching signs, and banners being carried by 6 left-wing lunatics, all 12-foot-long sign. ICE out of Minnesota. That reminded me of the Yippies and U.S. out of North America. I always thought that was kind of funny, U.S. out of North America. And their sign, their big banner says, "Stop ICE Terror." And here's something that the news media will never notice. They'll never look at. They have a professional emblem in the bottom of the big 12-foot-long banner, and it's the PSL. It's the PSL workers, PSL workers. That's how they say workers. Now, that's the Party for Socialism and Liberation. That's the Communist Party in the United States, and some of them are wearing their red coats because they're communists, and they've got their Party for Socialism and Liberation sign, and you see these all the time. I've been pointing this out for years on the mall in Washington, and the news media never sees them. They could have 20-foot, and they have in the past had 20-foot banners, socialism now, meaning communism now, and the news media never sees them, and they never see this either, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. But they've got their signs, their signs with black magic markers and stuff. Bring out workers' power. That's as you hear the communist language. Bring out workers' power for ICE out now. Internationalist group Revolutionary, here they are, their revolutionary thing, Revolutionary Internationalist Youth. That's what this sign was, written with black magic marker, the Revolutionary International. These are communists. There's a communist revolution going on in the United States of America. Full citizenship rights for all immigrants. That means 25 million illegal immigrants. And again, they've got the Internationalist Revolutionary Group written at the bottom of the sign there, and that's okay. And Justice for Alex. This is a professionally made sign, Justice for Alex. Jeffrey Pretty killed by, it's Alex, his middle name is Jeffrey. The sign's very poorly made, but they're stupid people. And again, they've got the Party for Socialism and Liberation at the bottom of that professionally made sign as well, because these are commies. And I actually read a piece, kind of a fun piece that was written by a special operations warrant officer who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he wrote a nice long piece about what he's seeing here and how this is what he saw from organized guerrilla groups in Iraq and in Afghanistan. And he wrote very eloquently about it, I've got to say. Eric Schwalm wrote the story. Here he is in his body armor with a headset on overseas. And he writes, as a former Special Forces warrant officer with multiple rotations running counterinsurgency ops, both hunting insurgents and trying to separate them from sympathetic populations, I've seen organized resistance up close, from Anbar to Helmand, Iraq to Afghanistan. The pattern is familiar. Spotters, cutouts, dead drops, or modern equivalents, disciplined comms, meaning communications, role specialization, and a willingness to absorb casualties while bleeding the stronger force slowly. That's what the left is doing in the United States today. What's unfolding in Minneapolis right now isn't protest, it's low-level insurgency infrastructure built by people who clearly studied the playbook. Signal groups at 1,000-member cap per zone, dedicated roles, mobile chasers, plate checkers, logging vehicle data into shared databases, 24/7 dispatch nodes, vectoring assets, salute-style reporting, the size, activity, location of units, the time, the equipment. And this is what they're doing. It really is to vector their mobs to go attack the government, because this is basically a communist revolution. Most of them are too stupid to know that they're being used, but never mind that. On suspected federal vehicles, daily chat rotations and time deletions to frustrate forensic recovery, vetting processes for their joiners, mutual aid from sympathetic locals, that'd be teachers providing cover, of course the governor and the mayor, possible police department tip-offs on license plate lookups, home base coordination points, rapid escalation from observation to physical obstruction or worse. So here he is, a special operations guy, talking about what he's seeing in the United States and how he's seen the same thing in Iraq and Afghanistan among insurgent groups. And this is the left in the United States, because they're not on our side. Now, let me get back to a little bit of audio here. Let's go, Michael, to the chief law enforcement officer. We played the lunatic Antifa guy who's calling for everybody to get armed and come out in a shooting war. Manderson Pooper on CNN claiming that there was no evidence that the guy had a gun at all. He just had a camera. They're inciting more violence at CNN. And here is, speaking of inciting violence, the jihadist communist Keith Ellison, who's a Nation of Islam radical, and the Democrats elected him in Minnesota. His name is Keith Ellison. He hates everything about the United States of America. And here is Keith. He's the Attorney General of one of our 50 states. And listen to this. He's just making stuff up, but he's trying to create division and draw people into the streets for more violence. Keith Ellison. Yeah, you do.
But you should at least be in favor of conserving evidence.
Oh, conserving evidence.
A homicide. And to have to go get an order from a judge to preserve that evidence is extraordinary.
You
and
don't
should
have to.
Alarm everyone who believes in equal justice under the law. And who believes that every person, no matter how this case ultimately is resolved, deserves to have their case investigated to get to the truth of what happened.
Yeah, you're just the guy for that, I'm quite sure. Yeah, it's a federal law enforcement attack. And here's the thing. You guys are the ones, the law enforcement on a state level, the attorney general, the state police because of the governor, the city police in Minneapolis because of the mayor, Jacob Frey, not cooperating, which they call collaborating, which has a Nazi ring to it, not cooperating with the federal government because Trump derangement syndrome, because they're an open borders policy in there, and they're for illegal aliens and not for regular Americans. Isn't that amazing? But there's Keith Ellison. And if, conservatives, liberals, what about conserving evidence in a homicide? It's technically a homicide because someone was shot and killed and deliberately killed. But it's not a murder. But never mind that. And he's making it sound like it is. And he's Keith Ellison. And the ICE shooting, and they're on the side of the bad guys, always on the side of the bad guys. The Deputy Attorney General of the United States of America is a man named Todd Blanche, and he was live on the television early this morning. Todd Blanche was asked about that comment from the Attorney General in Minnesota, and Todd Blanche, Deputy Attorney General, was having none of it.
First of all, that was a bald-faced lie, and it's disgusting that the Attorney General at a time like this will come out with that disgusting rhetoric. As everybody knows, as the governor himself knows, as the Attorney General knows, as the mayor knows, after the incident happened, local law enforcement decided to come on the scene, and they lost the crime scene. Protesters and rioters overtook that crime scene. It was not federal law enforcement. It was not Border Patrol agents that did not preserve the crime scene. That is just blatantly false. And so it would do everybody in this country a lot better if honesty were spoken from the leadership in Minnesota.
That is going to be problematic. I don't think that's going to work out very well. You want honesty from them? That is completely nuts. That would ruin everything. The Democrat Party is one giant deception, and it's very, very violent. Now, senior U.S. Border Patrol officer Greg Bovino also was, hey, what about this? We had a shooting and the guy was killed, and CNN says he didn't even have a gun. Here is senior U.S. Border Patrol official Greg Bovino.
Let's think of what those agents were doing on that scene, making a split-second decision. You've had 24 hours to try and armchair quarterback things. That agent had a split seconds to make a decision.
Yeah, and they don't care. They really don't care. They are a lynch mob. That's the Democrat Party. They're the ones that lynched black people from trees in the 1860s and the 1920s, and they're the ones that hosed down civil rights marchers with fire hoses and loose dogs on them. The Democrat leaders, Sheriff Bull Connor, and, you got George Wallace and Orville Faubus and all the Democrats. The Democrat Party, it's not the party of good neighbors, let's say. Let's go back to the, let's see, what do I have time? Now, let's take a break here. Then we'll come back and we'll go to the phones. I don't want to squeeze our next caller in such a tight spot. But, the Democrat Party, I've got more audio for you as well because these people are nuts. And more media. We got This Week and Zoran Mamdani. John Carl at ABC Fake News. I've got Adam Shifless for you, too. He's always reliable. We're at 888-630-9625.
Second Amendment is the only thing that's going to keep you protected from literal Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street.
Yes, literal Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street that bring guns to riots and extra magazines, the Democrat Party. Very, very Mentally ill. SMIDs, severely mentally ill Democrats. It's an acronym. Everybody's using it. Let's go to, by the way, Tom Homan is our border czar, is being sent to Minnesota, and the media is very upset about this because of their mental illness. Let's go to James, calling from beautiful Macon, Georgia. James, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I just noticed that the gunman, Alex Petty, had a Sig Sauer P320 or 320, and there's been lawsuits and allegations that gun will go off and fire without a trigger pull, especially if it's dropped or snagged quickly.
Yep.
And it was several police departments use that because it's a full-size service weapon, 9mm.
Right.
And they stopped using it because of those allegations, and it's a lot of police department, policemen, law enforcement officers have said that gun has gone off without pulling the trigger. And this is my theory, and it's the allegation, and I don't have any way to prove it, is that gun might have went off when the Border Patrol agent pulled it from his waistband.
Yeah.
And unintentionally.
No, you're 100% right.
We don't know what happened.
Well, that's right. We don't know what happened. There's a scrum. There's a fight. Dude brought a gun to go confront the police with an extra magazine. Why did he think he'd need another extra high-capacity magazine? He's fighting the police. And you're absolutely right. I was reading about this morning. I've always thought of Sig Sauer as being an extremely high-quality firearm. I don't own one, but I know plenty of people that do. And I think of it as a very high-quality firearm. But I read all over the place this morning, as you're describing here, James, the tendency or the propensity of this firearm to accidentally discharge when dropped or when grabbed inappropriately. And there are lawsuits, as you said, involving this firearm accidentally discharging. And I was surprised to hear that because the reputation of Sig Sauer, right, James?
Yeah, I mean, it's a quality weapon. Everybody makes mistakes, and the allegations might not be true, but it's a lot of them out there. There's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of smoke out there. So,
yeah, there is. There is.
And
go ahead.
Also, we have the left now. They're taking up the Second Amendment, but I thought Joe Biden said that you couldn't fight against F-16s and armies and stuff.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Joe Biden was suggesting that conservatives were going to go to civil war again, and that we better have F-16s because that's what Joe Biden said, isn't it?
Yes. I appreciate your show. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, James. Macon, Georgia. That's great. Wonderful stuff. And it's true, I was reading all about the Sig Sauer P320 this morning, and these reports of misfires by that pistol. It may be an element.
And I love people who say the tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots. Well, guess what, man? I didn't see a whole lot of patriots that are out there walking around making sure that we have these weapons. Well, and if you really want to worry about the government, you need an F-16.
Yes, you need an F-16. Just one F-16? You think that'd do it? One of the great days of my life was when I got to fly an F-16 out of Moody Air Force Base in South Georgia, 69th Fighter Squadron, the Werewolves, taking the stick, pulling 7.5 Gs in loops. It was just great. I love that F-16. I wish I had an F-16. If I were a billionaire, I'd have an F-16. You know, if I had like $700 billion like Elon Musk or something. All right, speaking of airplanes and F-16s, a private jet crashed in Bangor, Maine, trying to take off at Bangor International Airport in the middle of a snowstorm last night, and there were 8 people aboard. The plane was a Bombardier Challenger, and it's a nice private jet. The The Challenger crashed on takeoff last night, Bangor International Airport, around 7:45, apparently during heavy snow. And it was a big storm. The plane crashed, and there were 8 people on board. It looks like 7 are dead for sure, and 1 clinging to life. But listen to this. According to Steve Robinson on Al Gore's Amazing Internet, there is the plane, the Challenger, was owned by a group, an LLC. The LLC is registered to Jason Itkin and Kurt Arnold, 2 trial attorneys who have made a lot of waves fighting conservatives in Texas. They fight against conservatives in Texas. They're private jet liberals, Gulfstream Guevaras. But listen to this. The LLC owning the jet that crashed, 7 dead, 1 barely surviving. Jason Itkin and Kurt Arnold, 2 trial attorneys who have made waves fighting against conservatives and Texas and defending illegal aliens. It is not known whether Itkin and Arnold, the owners of the LLC that owns the plane, were aboard the plane, and if so, why they were in Maine at the time. There are a lot of Somalis there, though, so we got that. The Texas Voice has reported, along with George Soros and other personal trial attorneys, that injury trial attorneys, both Arnold and Itkin and Abraham Watkins law firm were major donors to the left-wing First Tuesday PAC during the 2024 election cycle. First Tuesday was responsible for a multi-million-dollar ad campaign that encouraged voters to stop MAGA Republicans and vote for every Democrat. The Arnold Itkin Abraham Watkins law firm each donated $300,000, each of them, 4 of them. That's $1.2 million. $300,000 to First Tuesday in support of their efforts to elect Democrats in 2024. Now, I don't wish them a fiery death or anything like that. They would wish me a fiery death, of course, but I don't wish them a fiery death in kind. So that Challenger jet belonging to a left-wing political activist group, and why are you taking off in the middle of the biggest snowstorm in decades in Bangor, Maine? Doesn't seem like the smartest thing in the world to me. But every day is an IQ test, and you know how that goes. Also, out of the Veterans Hospital in Minneapolis, where Alex Pretty worked, the story is shooting victim Alex Pretty was honored by Veterans Hospital co-workers. Veterans Hospital co-workers. And that's fine if they knew the guy and all that stuff. Fine. Let's get some camera crews down there to talk to those people. Tell us what they know about him, about his politics, and what kind of a radical straps on a semi-automatic 6-hour pistol and extra high-capacity magazine and goes down to confront federal law enforcement and get in fights with them. What kind of a guy is this bearded loon? Because what normal person does that? But never mind that. So they had, and that's these coworkers. So they had an event and they honored him as a coworker. Seems perfectly normal. I've got to say, but do they do this when police officers are shot and killed? I'm just curious. I'm telling you. Also, I have friends in many places, and I have a law enforcement friend texting me now. Said a guy he used to work with had a SIG 320 Sig Sauer, the same pistol that the Democrat's friend Alex Pretty had, the Sig Sauer 320. And listen, he had it go off and hit him in the leg. His wife had to put a tourniquet on his leg to save him. His SIG 320 went off accidentally. A law enforcement official who is doubtless familiar with his firearm, and still the SIG 320. I had never heard this about the 320 until this happened. Now hearing all about that. But this is a serious person, an adult, a law enforcement official who's been there. Now that's for sure. And he had a SIG 320, the same pistol, and he had it go off, and a bullet hit him in the leg. Wife had to wrap him up to stop the bleeding, you know. And I mentioned that Tom Homan is being sent to Minnesota by President Trump. So the left-wing media has, Trump appears to bench Kristi Noem, sending Tom Homan to Minnesota. Completely false. There's no reason to come to that idiotic conclusion, but lefties are severely brain damaged. So President Donald Trump has announced he will send Tom Homan to Minneapolis. An apparent benching of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, a former governor, who has reportedly been at odds with the border czar. But, so what? That doesn't mean that she was benched at all. That's pretty amazing stuff. Trump announced the move via his Truth Social platform on Monday morning. 2 days after the shooting in Minneapolis, VA nurse Alec Pretty by Border Patrol agents. But the president said, I'm sending Tom Homan to Minnesota tonight. He has not been involved in that area, but knows and likes many of the people there. Tom is tough but fair and will report directly to me. Separately, a major investigation is going on with respect to the massive $20 billion plus welfare fraud that has taken place in Minnesota. A lot of people think the Democrats have ginned up all the riots here and stuff because they don't want the Somali multi-billion-dollar fraud to be investigated any further, and I wouldn't put it past them, certainly. The left doesn't care about a body count, as they like to say, a single death is a tragedy. 1 million deaths are a statistic. That's from the socialist Joseph Stalin, who murdered tens of millions of people in the name of utopia. And now the left is here in the United States. But isn't that great? And President Trump said so. He's, looking into the $20 billion plus welfare fraud taking place in Minnesota, and is at least partially responsible for the violent organized protests going on in the streets. Additionally, the Department of Justice and Congress are looking at Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. He put Congresswoman in quotation marks, the president did, who left Somalia with nothing and is now reportedly worth more than $44 million. Time will tell all. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And it is amazing, according to multiple reports, that Ilhan Omar's husband apparently has raked in tens of millions of dollars in no time at all. As soon as his wife found herself in Congress, a Somali, she grew up munching beetles, and now she's worth tens of millions of dollars in the United States, and she hates the United States. Something terribly wrong with these people. Yes, there is. I can't believe how quickly 3 hours go by, but never mind that. Let's get back to these lunatics. I only have a couple of more sound bites for you on today's. Well, I got a couple of people anyway. Let's go to soundbite number 12, Mr. Michael. This is This Week Without David Brinkley. John Karl was the host yesterday and had on the radical, extremist, left-wing, communist, jihadi, Jew-hater Zohran Mamdani, who the Democrats love. They love to hate the Jews. Even their Jews hate the Jews. But there it is. John Karl with Zohran Mamdani yesterday. It's like, oh, isn't ICE terrible? Shouldn't we abolish the federal government and recreate the Confederate States of America? John Karl asked.
But like many other people said, do you want to see ICE abolished? How would you enforce the immigration laws? Or do you think they shouldn't be enforced? I mean, how would you do it without immigration and customs enforcement?
Do it with a little bit of humanity. Immigration existed long before ICE. ICE is a modern creation. I'm older than ICE.
He's older than ICE. Yeah. Joe Biden is actually older than ICE itself, not the government agency, but frozen water, which is a different thing. So there's Zohran Mamdani. Well, how is that relevant? It's a federal government agency, and you're older than ICE. And yet we actually enforced immigration law even before the existence of immigration customs enforcement. And you know what? We enforced immigration law. But did you hear the question? Should we have immigration law? Shouldn't we just have open borders and flood the United States until it's unrecognizable? It's a third world beep hole country, a non-English speaking country. Isn't that what we should do? And that was actually the question. Well, I'm older than ICE, as though that is pertinent to anything. But when you're John Karl, the tongue bath resumed.
But you've always had an whatever you call it, you've had an organization to enforce those rules.
I would separate ICE from an organization that looks to enforce these rules. ICE is an organization that cares little for the rules. It's an organization that operates with reckless impunity and seems to revel in the flouting of those kinds of rules. And that's what gives people a real sense of fear. ICE agents are masked. You oftentimes have no idea. We even have seen instances in this country of people pretending to be ICE agents because they know that there's no identification. That's what we're talking about.
That's a lie. He's a lying Sacagawea, and he's a communist. And the Democrats elected him in New York City, and I'm going to assume that they're going to get what they voted for. Aren't they extraordinary? And then you may recall Adam Schiffless, who was the most awful, most dishonest member of the House of Representatives. So the Democrats in California promoted him to the United States Senate. Now he's a statewide official in California. And Adam Schiffless, the biggest liar, he lied every hour of every day for years on CNN. I think they gave him a medal. I think they gave him a contract. Aren't they awful? And here's Adam Schiffless. He was on Meet the Press yesterday, sometimes known as Face the Meat. But here's Adam Schiffless on Meet the Press yesterday, and they're going to honestly, it's not well. They keep talking about arming up and Second Amendment responses and civil war. Here is Adam Schiffless. He's now a senator from California.
Well, I'm not giving ICE or Border Patrol another dime, given how these agencies are operating. Democrats are not going to fund that. The government will shut down if Republicans insist that be joined with other government funding. It will be a Republican decision. They understand we're not going to go along with this. And we hope some of the Republicans in the Senate may see those scenes in the streets and be as repelled as we are and vote against that continuation of violence also.
Just by the way, since he said also, in New York City over the weekend, they had 6 people found dead on the streets, freezing to death, and they went by and picked up their bodies because that's what they do because of the cold. They say, oh, wait a minute, I just checked. It's now 1 hour ago, 7 people found dead in New York City this weekend. Again, a single death is a tragedy. 1 million deaths are a statistic, because the Democrat Party is essentially the Communist Party. Lingering snow showers as big winter storm pulls away. Frigid air won't budge. You click on it and the headline changes. So 7 people found dead. I've talked about this 100 times. This is what the Democrats have done with homelessness. They say, lay on the street, and when you die, we'll come by and get your body. And that's what the Democrats do in New York. 7 people found dead in New York City this weekend. 7 people were discovered dead in New York City this weekend, and some of them, quote, had interactions with our shelter system in the past, end quote. That means it's Channel 7 ABC in New York City. The mayor said after previously indicating that none were homeless. So he lied. The mayor lied, and he shoveled a little snow over the weekend to show that he's a jihadi. It's still too early to share broader diagnosis or cause of death. They froze to death. However, as you've said, many New Yorkers know we haven't seen this kind of cold for 8 years. It's debilitating. So the mayor said we had 7 people freeze to death on the sidewalks of New York because we don't care. Adam Schiffless. So Adam Schiffless is threatening to shut down the government and not fund ICE. Now, and he's not going to fund the whole government because we're not going to include ICE. They're not going to fund ICE. It's defund the police. It's defund the federal police. It's open the borders and get the gangs in here. Here's Adam Schiffless.
If they don't, it will be their decision whether they couple that funding for these ICE agents and Border Patrol agents with all these other government agencies.
Republicans.
They will make the decision. They're in the majority if they want to shut down the government so they can perpetuate this violence. But I'm not going to be a part of it. And I think anyone who votes to give them more money to do this will share in the responsibility and see more American cities, more Americans die in our cities as a result.
Well, stop showing up with guns and attacking federal law enforcement. Stop getting in your car and racing at federal law enforcement. And now stop that. Stop attacking federal law enforcement. Stop supporting open borders. And that's Adam Schiffless. And you hear that? He's going to shut the government down. The Democrats are going to shut the government down. But the media is going to blame the Republicans. That's it. So we've got I can't believe what I've done to the clock again. But I've massacred it. I've murdered it. I'm like an ICE agent with the clock. Isn't that amazing? Man, oh man. So we've got that. Michael, I'm telling you. All right, so 7 people discovered dead in New York City this weekend, froze to death, homeless people. The mayor's lying about it. Oh, no, They'd been in and out of the shelter system, and then they threw them on the street, because that's what Democrats do with mentally ill homeless people. And then when they freeze to death, the Democrats go by and get their bodies. And then they make up a lie about it, because that's what commies do. Human life is not really their bag, baby, is it? No, it's not. We'll be right back. So the Mamdani Democrat administration in New York City, they're bragging when they found 7 dead people frozen to death on the streets, because the left is the third world, and they bring the third world with them wherever they go. They say, hey, we put 170 people in homeless shelters over the cold weekend. I guess you needed to put 177 in shelters, but you let 7 of them freeze to death because you're the third world. All right, let's go to the phones, Michael. Let's go to Michael calling from Woodbridge, Virginia. Miguel, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate you taking the call. I have to disagree with you on this thing with the Preddy situation, though. I don't care that he was carrying a gun. I don't care that he was carrying high-capacity magazines that he wanted to ban as a leftist. What I care is the left painting this story as he was legally carrying while he got shot. No, he wasn't, because in the 7 to 8 seconds before he got shot, he interfered in ICE operations committing federal obstruction. He then placed hands on a federal agent. He was physically trying to separate an agent from another person. That is absolute felony battery. Mm-hmm. The moment he got involved, physically involved, he was no longer legally carrying, not only under federal law, but under state of Minnesota law, not to mention the fact that he wasn't carrying his ID and everything else.
Right.
I've been a political activist for 40-something years. You have never been in a room with me, Chris, when I was not carrying. Mm-hmm. And you've been in rooms with me.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And even when we did 2020, when we went down to Richmond, remember 2020 was the year of sanctuary for firearms in Virginia. 2020 in Richmond for the lobby day, 30, 40, 50,000 Virginians showed up, most of us carrying AR-15s, strapping mags, the whole 9 yards. Nobody even got punched in the nose.
Right.
The difference is behavior. It is not why he carried or if he carried or what he carried. As long as all that was, I don't have a problem with a citizen carrying for self-defense. Mm-hmm. He did not commit self-defense. He got involved in an offensive action. That removes his protection.
Well, you're 100% right. And let me say, had he not had the pistol on him, that the federal agents would not have produced their pistols. There would have been no shots fired. He just would have been arrested by the federal agents for assaulting them. But he had a gun on him, and he got shot.